It says online. Are we live? I don't know, don't say. That's live just now. I would imply you're no longer live, which is not what the thing says. Oh. Aha! Okay, it does appear we are live. Okay, cool. Ah, I'm hearing myself. Okay, yeah, so I need to make sure we can hear you. You're being picked up. I say something, because I might not be broadcasting you.
I believe we are broadcasting. I've got the other channel open, which is why we were getting that feedback. Hello!
No, as in, when I was hearing the feedback, I couldn't hear the you bit. You speaking.
Can you hear me now?
Hang on. Okay, yes, there we go. Alright. Hello, we are professionals. That is the opposite. We are the definition of amateurs. Yes, Britty is not here, so I am streaming. Hence, incredible lack of editing. This is just my desktop. Hello, let me wave my mouse at you. I should probably do an intro.
Fine, they're not here for the technical skills, which we are here to provide.
Yeah, that's it. Hello, everybody. My name is... hello, everybody, and welcome back to Rolling. I didn't get... whatever. Rolling Misfits. Tonight we're presenting Rolling Misfits. I am Crazy Ferret. I am the host today. I'm also incredibly worn out and scatterbrained, more than usual. So, hopefully here to be the voice of reason tonight, we have Matt.
Which is worrying, seeing that I'm the only other voice here. Yes, I'm Matt. I usually play Phoenix, by a Gaecia wizard, although tonight I'm just playing Matt. Far less interesting.
I mean, your hair's less on fire.
Only a tad.
Only a tad. Yeah. Okay. So, tonight in our catching up of discussing past episodes, we'll be doing episodes 6, 7, maybe 8. So, quick recap to start off. Episode 6, the party was down here in Lantern. They'd been commissioned by the Church of Ismay to investigate some disappearances on Stewart's Avenue of these children. This investigation eventually led to them following the agent of the church, who had originally been assigned to this mission, down into the sewers, in which they found several nasty creepy crawlies, including a grey ooze that Phoenix adopted a portion of, and where they eventually found the missing children, who seemingly had been experimented on by a local dragonborn quote-unquote scientist. He seemed to be... yes, he was originally from Gaecia, but he had spent some time in the city. And he seemed to be kind of turning him into half dragonborn ish, and somehow, using himself and them, he was able to project this spectral, semi-corporeal dragon thing that the party then had a fight with, and then upon seeing exactly what Gaecia had done to the children, Fleet took a Judge Dredd approach. Yes, and curb stomped Gaecia before he could fully explain himself, although he did seem a bit out of it in the lacking in the sanity department.
It was one of those things. Episode 6 was one of the VODs that is sadly lost.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, big episode. So I imagine the majority of viewers who are going to watch this and perhaps our series at a later date,
Hopefully.
is going to be one of the ones you're missing, and it is a shame because a lot happened this episode.
Yeah.
A lot of bursts, a lot of big, potentially character-defining moments that will ripple down
Sure, yeah.
ways.
Uh,
I mean, going
you say it was lost to the ether. It was lost to my idiocy. So,
we're calling that
yeah.
that is a void. May surface somewhere. Who knows?
I highly doubt it. Like, there's no way Twitch is keeping a copy of it, especially not after this long. So, unless someone else downloaded it, it's...
Big episode. Technically, it was acquired the episode before, but the first time I got to really examine first spellbook for Phoenix, first dungeon crawl
Yep.
of the campaign, first real boss fight of the campaign if you don't count the House of Too Many Guards.
yeah, who could call it a mini boss?
I'd say first real party splintering action. Not maybe splintering is not the right word. It didn't tear us apart, but first really controversial moment.
Yeah, I think controversial is probably the best word. Not everybody agreed with the action that was taken. Yeah, I mean...
The action that was taken, I think Ash was probably the one who really didn't care.
Sure. I don't think anyone would say it wasn't deserved, perhaps.
Well, great context, yeah. Obviously, Ferret has summed up the episode.
Sure.
As we did discover our antagonist of this little arc, doing some very nasty things, experimenting on kids. Bit of a light show, summing up this undead spirit dragon, and everything was settled. We'd just about pulled through the fight, which was scarily tweaked to be pretty nerve-biting. I think both Phoenix and Althea wouldn't have come down. I think maybe Phoenix was the only one who was knocked out in that fight. Everyone else
I can't remember. It's quite a while ago.
Barbarian to wade through the damage and deal the finishing blow. But
Yeah.
we got through the dragon. We got
Breath attacks do be scary, though.
just as Phoenix goes to dive into the sewer to go looking for some equipment, crunch. Just kicks Grav in the stomach a little bit too hard.
I mean, yeah, so... I guess... I think we can all agree it was a cool story moment. Like, in terms of just pure richness, story-wise, that's possibly one of the better ways it could have gone down. Just like drama and stuff.
I will not deny everything done was perfectly in character. I will never say otherwise.
Yeah.
Absolute props to Britty for following through with. I mean, Britty has made what can be charitably described as an impulsive character. They are. Fleet is very emotion-driven, very in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was potentially the first thing that really caught Fleet in the feels and really riled them up in the wrong way. And a little bit of lashing out was perfectly in character. That Gurov potentially got what he deserved, also maybe not in question.
I mean...
He'd come out and admit it, he'd say like, he was a bastard, and he was doing horrible things.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit insane, which probably would have required some investigation to determine why, but nothing he was doing was good.
Oh no. I mean, you still don't necessarily know why he was doing it.
That's where controversy lay.
Yes.
Any avenue of asking those questions or actually determining that information was somewhat stymied.
I mean, yeah. There is also the point that he was sadly not right in the head, and so what quality of information you might have been able to dredge from him, it's difficult to say. for you, at least. Yes. What?
You say that. Very next session was our level 3 level up.
Yes, it was.
Would have been able to take it.
Wow.
We ended up taking the level after.
Wow. Sometimes things just work out like that. Yeah.
After people kept... In fact, it was actually... getting ahead of ourselves here, it was the next instance of this sort of thing happening which finally prompted Phoenix to go, you know what, no, I'm actually going to get that interrogation tool so we can stop having that conversation and actually question these people, even if they are a bit insane. It's getting a bit ahead of ourselves. I'd be interested talking about, because first dungeon crawl of the campaign.
Yes, I'm just bringing the map up on the screen.
Quite well. It has been actually a while. I can't remember, did we go through in initiative order, or did we play it? We were in initiative, moving around at our own pace.
Yeah, so we just had the same initiative, so you would keep that for when you ran into something.
Yeah.
But when you were just, hey, I want to walk over here and see what there is, you weren't doing that one by one in initiative.
So having played a few versions of dungeon crawls, definitely my favourite system. If DMs are listening, or players are listening, this is the dungeon crawl method. Use this one. Initiative order dungeon crawls are a slog. If you have to do everything in initiative order, moving only at your speed, having to move around other people, and hold actions to do things in the correct... It's just a pain.
Yeah.
Let your players explore the non-combat or initiative-required moments by themselves. It's just smoother.
So I brought up the map on the stream, because I have all the maps archived in case I want to bring them up for things like this. Hopefully it'll pop into resolution at some point. It's quite JPEG at the moment.
Big old sewer.
Yeah, well,
Go wrong with standard big old sewer.
one point that almost surprised me right from the outset, that you guys all did, that it never occurred to me, was, you can't really see it. Oh, there we go, it's popped into detail now. Yeah, so we've got these bits of the map, which, are raised areas, and this is the kind of actual sewage bits, and then you all stuck to the sides like super glue. You were all super unwilling, even in combat, to move through the sewage area. I thought, as soon as you started doing it, I was like, that is so in character. I just love that. That was a proud mama hen moment for me.
The funny thing is, I couldn't say if that's experienced D&D player actions or just in-character don't want to walk in the sewage actions, because it's a case of, as players, we're going, no, we're not going in the sewage, that's where the nasty thing and in character we're going, we're not going in the sewage.
You can imagine all sorts of groups, though, that, just, it's a map, we'll just wander over it as it seems. But that was kind of what I was expecting you to do. I just love the way you decided, nope, we're sticking to the side the entire way. Even if it means I can't get to whack a guy this turn, you didn't do it, and that...
It's the funny thing, actually, of in a game recently I was in, it ended up being the opposite. We were in a similar kind of sewer situation, but for the first half of it, we were triggering traps, we didn't have our rogue up in the proper place, it was a pain, and then my character basically just went, you know what, screw this, and just walked in the sewage, because they realised, no, all the traps are on the outside parts, where people walk.
Yeah.
If you're walking through the sewage, there's no traps, because they don't expect people to walk through the sewage. It was a case of, an in-character reason to do the opposite, which was fun. But yeah, no, I think it just makes sense. When you're in these kind of situations, it's not just a map. Your characters they're experiencing these horrible smells. They're looking at it as people going, yeah, that would maybe be a bit easier, but it's sewage. I'm not walking through that. I don't have to.
When you think about it, I wouldn't go anywhere near sewage if I didn't have to. But yeah, so you guys took a route. So you started here, and you took a route something like this, and then you went kind of through.
Unpleasant
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of went up here.
And then we went through the big middle cistern room, encountered some undead, like half. I really like the description. Half-formed skeletons made of mismatched bones from various different corpses.
Yeah.
Interesting description of an enemy. And yeah, we kind of went through the side alley, found that big stone hand. I believe that's where Fennec got his start in the tournament.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because we didn't.
Or did you come down?
Yeah, we came
Or
through there.
come through here?
Then we went off to the right, because that's where we encountered the grey ooze.
Oh yeah. And then you came down like that, actually. Yeah.
At one point, Fenix literally walked under an archway, had a grey ooze drop on him, deal exactly his health, and just dropped. So he just walked through an archway, dropped.
Yeah. Oops. Anyway.
But he got a little bit romantic. I need to name my ooze at some point. Call it Sliver or something.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of things you didn't encounter. Yeah. So you
extend off that far on the other side.
yeah. So you did a decent job of like going through a lot of stuff. Like exploring a decent amount of the map, but the route you take just happened to fill the session. It's like when I was playing this, I was like, oh, if they do everything, it'll be like 1.5 sessions. But obviously, they could just accidentally beeline, and I don't have anything rest. But you, luckily for me, just took the perfect amount of time. So
The inner RPG gamer wanting to do all the side rooms, all the missions, making sure you've like thorough and haven't missed anything, and also acting of no, we're down here for a reason. We've taken a route that seems reasonable, and now we're going to have finished our job. Why would we just stick around the sewers?
Yeah, so you got these are like carrion crawlers, and then you skirted the shadows, which is quite good because they're nasty because they can reduce your strength modifier. Yeah, they're down here in this corner.
We don't know shadows. Nasty.
Yeah, so when they hit you, they decrease your strength by 1d4, which, and obviously if it reduces to 0, you die because your body is no longer functional.
Remember, is it a con save, or is that just a straight if they hit you?
I think it's if they hit you. Hang on, let me look it up. Shadow.
And fun fact for all of you who are following latest releases, Tasha's has a little hidden creature in it that maybe those of you who browse D&D Beyond a bit more thoroughly will be familiar with, called a reflection, which it's a bit hidden away in the book. It's in the DM Tools mirror encounters, but it is a new creature, and it is effectively the shadow stat block, but Fey typed, which is an important distinction because it means it is a valid target for the Conjure Woodland Beings spell.
Yeah.
Which is already a scary spell for DMs due to its ability to summon monsters, but being able to intentionally summon
Most of the summon spells are scary for DMs because you could just destroy the action economy like pretty easily.
It's a controversial spell in D&D because there's basically two forms of the summon spells, or at least the low-level ones that don't specify if you can control which animals you summon.
Yeah.
It's either a case of you can... Well, there's two options. Either your DM chooses which creature you summon, which most people agree essentially nerfs the spell into uselessness, because if you can't control which creature you're summoning, it has no real combat you can't control.
That is just stupid, though. I don't know why a DM would ever run that unless they just hate the spell. Like, that is just poor DMing.
The other option, obviously, is you control which animal you summon, which has the potential to be very unbalanced in the opposite direction, because third level Conjure Woodland Beings lets you summon potentially 8 pixies. Pixies, of which have both the fly and polymorph spells. So, if you want your entire party to be flying T-Rexes, that's the spell for you.
Yeah.
I think it's a case of discussing the bit of balance. Like, I think it is the correct option. I think it's the correct decision for the DM to allow their players to choose which animals they summon. I think that's more in the spirit of the spell. But at the same time, that is an extension of trust for players to then not turn around and absolutely abuse the shit out of the spell.
I mean, by the same token, they can cast Confusion, which is a powerful spell.
No, the pixies are by and far the most powerful thing they can see.
Yeah, or even Dispel Magic. Like, 8 pixies with Dispel Magic. That could just destroy a dungeon without too much difficulty. Like,
Third level spell slot. It's crazy.
yeah. And yeah, you're expending a 3rd level spell slot to get, like, Confusion's 5th level, Polymorph is 4th, there's a couple of 3rd, couple of 2nd, like...
It's been on my mind a lot recently. I've recently started playing the Circle of Shepherd's Druid, which is probably on par with... Actually, I personally say a little bit stronger than the Necromancer in terms of strong summoner builds or subclasses, and Conjure Wooden Beings is one of the ones that's becomes even sillier with a Circle of Shepherd's Druid, and yeah. Those of you who are considering playing or using this spell liberally, do discuss it with your DM, because it is one of those spells that is potentially extremely game-breaking if you abuse it.
Yeah.
Very fun. I wouldn't recommend not using the spell. I'm not one of those people who go like, oh, it's a terribly broken spell, I shouldn't use it because it just disrupts the game, and getting all those summons onto the field is a pain and a nightmare. That's another thing. If you're going to use the spell and you're like using Roll20 or you're in person, make sure you are prepared for it. Have the stat blocks ready. Don't just throw this at your DM just because the spell text says your DM has the stat blocks.
Yeah.
Like, no. Don't be that guy. Be prepared. Be prepared for whatever you are planning on.
I would also say, always be prepared. If you ever try to do this, if you want to say in this game, hey, this is a thing I like to do, I will do that to you. Like, yeah, if you try to exploit this, I will exploit it, and because I have infinite resources, I can exploit it far better. It's kind of similar to Counterspell. I will never put Counterspell on any of my enemies until you put it on your PCs, because it is incredibly strong. Because it is a very, very strong spell.
But then we also play in a society where there's a lot of high-level characters.
Well, yeah.
Yes, the high-level spellcasters will just run roughshod.
I mean, yeah.
We're at the point now where we've got a level 20 wizard in the society, and that guy is all but impossible to kill. 9th level invulnerability spell is absurd.
Yeah.
Counterspell is pretty much a must for most high-level DMs. Yeah, golden rule in general for D&D is if you think you can abuse a system, the DM can do it better.
I mean, there's like things like there's designs for like trick arrows with like a bag of holding and a what's it called, portable hole. It's like on impact of energy, the portable hole goes into the bag of holding and creates the portal to the astral plane, so you could just shoot it at something and then just insta die. I see, like, if you want to be a player and you want to try and make your character make that, sure, I'll just do it to you, and when I do it, your PCs are on the astral plane forever. If you don't have the right spells. So
Is, if you think of something absurd and hilarious and broken, expect to only be able to do that once. If you continue to try and do that absurd, broken thing, you are inviting your DM to do it back to you.
I mean, yeah.
You will get away with it once, because that is as far as the novelty will stretch. Your DM will go, okay, that was funny, and fair enough, you came up with a very clever way of doing this. Don't do it again.
It's similar to a deck of many things in some regards, I think.
Conversation.
Well, because obviously a lot of the thing in the decks of many things just wreck DM's plans. Obviously, by the way the deck works, it only works once. So, in many ways, it's almost golden in the fact it only works once. You get your cool moment, and then obviously you can't do it again without great risk.
I will say the opposite. It's almost the opposite is true with the deck of many things, because the DM is in full control of whether or not the party gets one of those. So
Well, yes, not in terms of the DM giving it to you, just in terms of the impact it has on the game. It's one of the things like I am incredibly hesitant to ever include the Deck of Many Things in any game ever. Well, yeah.
Because it's just absurd the kind of things that can happen.
Because it very much has potentially campaign breaking effects.
Well, yeah, because what do you do if your party suddenly loses a member to the void?
Well, because it's legendary, I would never put it at level 5. It only occur at high levels. Because if the campaign breaks when you're at a high level, everything up to that point you've done, all your effort as a DM is just now null and void. And I'd just be, I would hate that. But we've moved away from the topic. That was a bit of a tangent. So yes.
Down at the bottom of the map, that's where it's faced up.
Yeah.
Sounds like
It wasn't just the Spirit Dragon. It had parts of it that were like taken from. So they had a lot of organs that were organic, so been harvested from somewhere. A couple of like almost mechanical bits, and then it was mostly Spirit. But they were kind of holding these bits together. He very much seemed to be trying to manufacture his own dragon somehow by channeling it through himself and these half dragonborn children.
We're still at a point in the campaign where we still have no idea what Gareth was hoping to accomplish with this.
No, it has cropped back up.
Things are happening in the later episodes, which are now referring back to this, but we still don't really have a clue.
No. Were you expecting Gareth to pop back up? That's my question. Were you expecting him and his story to have impact later on? When you were doing this, like in episode 6?
The lack of closure is certainly niggling. I wouldn't have said I was expecting him to pop up. I wouldn't necessarily say it's hard to make expectations. You don't know where the story's going. You don't know if
Sure.
if you're stopping in Lantern, is this the Lantern quest or is this part of a bigger event? Turns out it was seemingly part of bigger events, but we didn't know that at the time.
No.
It could have very well been like if you just left it there and just said like, "Yep, that was the Lantern thing, the crazy dragonborn."
Sure.
Had a whole thing. That was the Lantern thing. That would have been like, yeah, that was a pretty cool, semi-self-contained subquest. But no, it's cropping back up, and that's always interesting. So I like that. I never expect for these things. But it's always a pleasant surprise when you find out. No, the world is bigger. The world is connected. Things don't just happen in isolation.
Yeah.
And like I said, the unanswered questions of this whole affair were niggling at me. So the potential for some of those questions to be answered is always a pleasant surprise. Like Phoenix is still holding on to loads of Garav's equipment and notes. So.
Well, what wasn't pillaged? Because in episode 5, you found his house had been broken into, but had been carefully rearranged to look like he'd freaked out in it.
I had the notes and equipment that were on hand at the actual ritual.
Yes.
Prep stuff.
Yeah. And based on current events, it seems they might be worth a lot to certain people. But again, that's getting ahead of ourselves. So yeah, do you have anything else to talk about episode 6? It was mostly just a dungeon crawl. Yeah.
No, it was like I said, the end of that episode was really mostly dealing with the shock of Fleet killing Garav and making sure. I think there were mixed opinions. It was interesting to see the mixed opinions amongst the party regarding the children in the end.
Yeah.
Like leaving them under the care of the church, the church opting to make the decision not to inform the parents they found, and certain members of the party arguing vigorously against that. So
Sure.
It was a good, not the kind of thing you'd expect to be a characterization moment. Just a little thing that kind of did paint a light on some of the choices that people made with their characters.
Yeah. Alright, so think this brings us back to episode 7. So what happened there was you kind of you came up out of the sewers, you talked to the church, and eventually you were informed that the head, almost like the senior, I guess, seniority of the church in Aithwaite had decided to take on the matter, and that you were to escort Hope from Lantern to Aithwaite with the help of Abriel, the Aesmar you made friends with earlier in the town of Rutherford, and then the church will be taking up greater investments in Hope's protections from there. Along the way, you had an encounter where you were attacked by a bunch of ghouls, one of whom it seemed was what was his name? I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was the agent of the church who had been originally sent to investigate the disappearance of the children, and somehow is now a ghoul. Aleth, that's right. And somehow he got ghoulified after going into the sewer. Again, something you still haven't figured out yet. Exactly why that happened. Yes, he had a note pinned to his chest.
Tethered moments that seem to no answers yet. Things about High Lord Orbin.
Yes.
Things afoot, ghoulification, bigger games.
Yes, because the letter was directed to the High Lord, and Phoenix took upon himself to commit mail fraud and rummage through it.
At least I did it well. Sealed it back up again.
Yeah, you still committed mail fraud. Like, it doesn't make it any less of a crime if you do it well. I'm very sure mail fraud exists in medieval times, especially since mail was everything, because obviously there's no email or phones. If you wanted to get a message long distance, you had to write it down and get it on horseback.
Who's going to file an insurance claim? I don't think.
But yes, so that was broadly what happened. Yes, and obviously during the fight, Hope, for the second time, manifested an owlbear, seemingly out of nothing. Obviously this time you got to see it, in which he basically turned a tree into this wooden owlbear golem, almost type thing, that proceeded to mess shiz up.
I've got that down in my notes as Hope Fennecomet again.
Yeah.
Phoenix was very sad we couldn't get Owlbear with us.
Yes, cause, after the fight was over, it reverted into a statue, almost, of a wooden owlbear. And yeah, it would be incredibly impractical to take it with you.
A life-sized, perfectly carved Owlbear statue for so much.
Probably, yeah, you just didn't have the means to transport it.
I need to get Tensor's floating disc. What that spells for.
I'm fairly sure it weighs more than £500. A life-size owlbear made of wood.
Is it made of untreated wood? Just like trees roadside.
I don't know. £500 isn't as much as it seems to be.
No, actually the other day I found out that iron golems weigh 6,000 pounds.
Yeah, they're large things made of metal. Like, what are you expecting?
Right, yeah, that sounds about right. It's the relation of like what you expect from spells and then actual numbers. Like you think like Tensor's floating disc, 500 pounds. Like, yeah, that's the go-to. We have a heavy thing. We need something to maneuver.
Yeah.
Carry it around with. That is the spell for that. And in retrospect, Tensors should probably upscale with the weight it can carry as you upcast it, but it doesn't. Which is
I think it's one of those spells designed to be 10 times cast as a ritual, to be fair.
Oh no, but ritual casting already specifies that when you ritually cast a spell, you cast it at its lowest level.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't.
You did spend the spell slot to upcast.
Sure, I guess.
Should carry more stuff, but yeah, just think about £500. That seems a lot like a fully kitted out Goliath with their carrying capacity maxed out will weigh about 600 pounds.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the bag of holding technically has a limit of £500 as well, I think. And most people just treat that, it can carry an infinite amount of stuff. Like, even though it has this limitation, most people just ignore that. Which, makes sense.
I think the funny thing with the bag of holding is if you actually look at the maths, I think most people fill it up volume-wise before they fill it up weight-wise.
Yeah. Probably, unless you're stuffing it full of, like, gold.
Unless it's just gold, and then, you're going to rupture that thing.
But yes, so you were on this journey. You had a few acolytes along with Abriel accompanying you, because obviously it was an escort mission. That's what the VOD called the escort mission. And obviously this was it was actually a gas, technically, the stat block for Poroleth here at the end. And then there were ghouls coming like out of the river, out of the trees. It was I think it got a bit hairy a couple of times.
Very good way of eliminating the whole send the familiar ahead to have a look. Look, the familiar went to have a look. It's a guy standing in the middle of the road. Oh look, ghouls!
Well,
Didn't investigate.
well. At the end of the day, Find Familiar is a first level spell. Like, you can only do so much. Like, yes, obviously the NPC who was here to help you spent most of the time petrified, and he wasn't able to help. So in fact, I think he was more powerful than you guys. I think he cast like third level spells or something. Yora's going to cast second, but he spent most of the encounter impotent, so that was fun. But Barbarian did as barbarians do and just wrecked stuff anyway. Reavers?
Only leveled up at the end of this session.
Oh,
To level
maybe he had second level spells then, I can't remember. But yes, obviously a couple horses died, sad face. But yeah, I think the most important beat story-wise is probably the whole owlbear thing, manifestation, and yeah, and the
pretty much knew, like it was the only logical conclusion to draw that it was Hope doing these things. But seeing it firsthand was a nice kind of, no, it is Hope.
yeah.
And you say that, I think the most stirring, characterizing moment was the deep, lasting friendship Yareth made with Acolyte Brewell.
Yeah, so Yareth went down in this like CR a quarter NPC got him up or something, or protected him or something like that. Yeah, I have to go back and watch the VOD for that bit to remember exactly what happened. But yeah, that was fun. I assume Riley's probably forgotten if to mention he'd have to go. Oh yeah, yeah.
It was the fact we made a bigger deal of it.
Yeah. I think also when Hope was freaking out when she summoned the owlbear, and then Althea spent a lot of the time including spell slots on calm emotions to try and calm her down, and then obviously Fleet as well. Mother hen moments. They were both like, "Oh, please calm down, please calm down." That was quite interesting as well, character wise. But yeah.
The other thing in the session was we learned about special consumables from the Merryweather.
Oh yes, the Mayfall Association consumables. Yes.
One of those wrapping around the bag.
Yeah. You didn't buy many of them because they were a bit expensive at the time, but
They were a bit expensive.
you might want to go back.
Poor low.
Well, I was also thinking some of these might need recosting. Some of them might be a bit cheap, almost, especially this. Especially Reinvigorating Brew. I think that might be quite a bit underpriced. Oh yeah, so some of these are just meant to be funny, like Red Hot Chili Pepper. Like it's just Dragon's Breath, so you don't choose the type of damage. but it's still fun. Yeah.
And I'm loath to use the word for any of our sessions because I enjoy them all and there's always the chance for opportunities. But session 7 was, for the most part, a bit of a travelling episode. Bit of a
Sure. It was. Yeah. It was maybe it was filler-ish, filler light. It was. Yeah. It's a logical bridge that had to be crossed, and it'd be weird not to have done it. And I tried to make it interesting with the whole ghoul attack and the hope and everything, but yeah.
Concept level 3 is,
Sure.
I think most people agree, potentially the most interesting level you can take for most classes. I mean, obviously, Phoenix has got his subclass out the way a level early.
I mean, yeah.
Ancestral Guardians subclass, Fleet taking their Whip in Hand subclass, and then our other 2 players were multi-classes. So
Yeah.
No,
Yaris not a multi-class. He just has it at first level because Warlock. But yeah. Yes, Pact of the Tome. He's got a freaky book that he made our player to write her name in last session.
I'm only now realising, looking back, Phoenix had already asked him about whether or not he had a spellbook, and he already had a book on him. So I'm guessing there was some DM-player agreement there that Yareth already had a book, or maybe this book was turned into his Book of Shadows?
So the theme of Yareth is he wanted to be a wizard, and then his Warlock Pact was his patron saying, "Here, have these wizard things." So while it manifests mechanically as Warlock, like stat-wise, what he does is Wizard E. So he's an intelligence caster, so his spellcasting ability is intelligence, and he uses a spellbook and all of that. So favour-wise, he works like a wizard would in the way he casts spells, although mechanically he is a warlock because that's the class Riley wanted to play, if that makes sense.
It's still a decision that baffles me to know. I probably shouldn't, because intelligence is useful.
Yeah, so like
abilities, but just
yeah, so he's.
I would have said, and I've gone on record saying I'm not the biggest fan of the warlock class, but I would have said charisma spellcasting was one of their biggest draws from how nicely it meshes with charisma ability checks and just general stuff like that. So just switching out one of the main draws for a warlock into intelligence casting.
Well,
Still a decision that baffles me.
Right, so like.
It fits the character, but just.
Yeah, so he doesn't cast spells like innately through gifts his patron gave him. He still studies them and learns them like a wizard would. It's just the Warlock spell list, I think, is the main thing that's going on. So he did have a book, even if it wasn't officially his Pact of the Tome yet, mechanically. But yes, that's Yareth. Look at him. Innie a good boy.
Althea was a multi-class, so she would have taken.
Yeah. No, cleric first level.
Oh, that's very true.
Divine Domain first level. Yeah.
Life domain. Life domain?
Life. She went life. Because at the very Althea. Yes. I think Life Domain is one of the most popular cleric subclasses, I think.
Undeservedly, it falls into that common misconception that the cleric is the healing class, when really cleric is the everything class. Like, if you have any party role, you can do it as a cleric.
Yes.
It's always the joke, you can have a party of just clerics, and it still be a very well-rounded party.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Life is, yes, it seems like it promotes you to be a heal bot, but another thing it does is it makes you easier to be blasty because you spend less spell slots and less time doing your healing, meaning you have more time and more spell slots for the blasty things clerics can do. So,
I'm also of the opinion that in 5e generally, healing's not great. It's not like World of Warcraft where the healer as a dedicated role is useful and like an integral part of a party makeup.
Sure.
having a bit of healing on hand is great, but the thing with 5e is you are never going to outpace the damage with healing.
Oh, no.
Damage prevention is always more useful than damage undone.
Yeah.
So having like a dedicated healer in the party is, in my opinion,
I think...
a missed opportunity for people either doing more damage to end the encounter earlier, or doing a bit more battlefield control to prevent the damage outright.
Yeah, I think that works though in 5e, specifically in 5e and how it works, because at the end of the day, the rule set is quite combat orientated, and if your role in combat is I'm just rolling dice and healing, when the fighter over there is ploughing down zombies by the mile, can feel boring and relatively uninspired. So by taking emphasis where you are forced into doing your more buffy or battlefield control, which is inherently just a more interesting thing to be doing, it's more engaging for you, I think. So I think it works with the current healing balance.
I'll go further. I'm going to die on the hill that even as far as healing goes, Cleric isn't even the best at it. My choice would be either Circle of Shepherds Druid or Divine Soul Sorcerer. I think both of those make better healers than even a Life Cleric.
As in pure heal bot healers?
No, not as in heal bot. I think they just make better healers, especially Druids, because if you just, as a Circle of Shepherds Druid, just throw up a Totem of the Unicorn, you can very effectively heal with just healing words. You can throw out healing words and you're healing all of your party instead of one of them. That's much better for like how healing in 5e works, much better as a pickup tool than a outpace the damage tool. Because if people are dropping and it's multiple people, usually that's a catch-22 of, I have to choose who to heal. Circle of Shepherds just go, Totem of the Unicorn, I heal everyone. Everyone gets up.
Sure.
Divine Soul Sorcerer just gets a very nice bevy of things they can do with like Twin Spell and Meta Magic.
Yeah.
And it's also the thing of Druids make great healers because while they can heal, and they can do it as a bonus action, and with Circle of Shepherds makes that even better, they are also strong action casters. They can wild shape, they can get involved in the combat and heal.
Oh, so can clerics, to be fair. You can't say clerics can't get involved in combat.
They are better served just getting involved in combat. Like, forget the healing, just wade in and...
I mean, maybe. I think it's slightly disputable, maybe.
Absolutely. It is a hill I will fight on, because I do think there are better classes. I think it's because
it's probably situation dependent, I would say. Like, one might be better one time, one might be better another time,
The perception is so ingrained now that Cleric, that is the healing, it comes over from older games, older RPGs like World of Warcraft, where the Priest is...
Well, just all sorts of RPGs everywhere.
Yeah, the Priest, the Cleric, they're always the healer. Where it's now so ingrained where you don't even consider, like, no, other classes can make better healers than the age-old healer.
Sure, but again, that's speaking almost min-maxy. If you're just thinking purely numbers, I would say.
Oh yeah, all of these are big, pure hypothetical questions. When most of the time you're just kind of flying by your seat in your pants. The dedicated healer might be the first one attacked, and they're down, and then you've got to change your whole dynamic. And D&D's a beautiful game in that regard. It's so organic, and you can never just say, "Oh, I've made a perfect build for this situation." Great. How do you know that situation's going to come up?
I mean, yeah.
At the end of the day, you're better off just preparing a character who is prepared for the most number of situations possible, even if it's not in an optimal manner.
Sure. I will.
It's always just a nice surprise when, eventually, or perhaps, the situation you really wanted to prepare for does come up, and you're like, aha, this is it. This is my moment.
Yeah.
Secret fun fact. Probably won't be, because D&D is chaotic in that way. Something unexpected will come up.
I mean, that's just because it's a dice game. Like, dice are always going to be dice. Shown by, I think this is still my phase of rolling really awfully on NPC damage. That has started to trickle away. Touch wood. I'm starting to draw slightly better damage from my enemies. Although I'm actually still just blending them, so yes. Alright. Did anything else happen in episode 7?
Like I said, bit of an in-between filler.
Yeah. Alright.
Still worth watching.
Cool.
Still entertaining stuff going. Session 8 was a bigger one.
Yes, I think we might want to save session 8 for another time. I think.
But I think that's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's enough of us talking back and forth.
Yes, especially since it's just the two of us tonight. It'd be nicer to get into episode 8 with more people.
Good to get a few more opinions on that one.
Yeah. Alright, cool.
Oh yes, actually no. Just checking my notes over session 8. Yeah, we definitely want a couple more opinions on
Yeah,
session 8.
we definitely want you on session 8.
It's just my opinion in the DM. It's going to be a heavily flavoured session discussion.
Yeah. Yes. That's a little teaser to look forward to. Yes. Unless you have anything else to say, we might want to wrap up for tonight.
No, thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah.
As usual. Join us on Wednesday for the next session.
Wednesday, 8 o'clock UK time. Gaecia, it is good. And then, thank you if you have watched Rolling Misfits tonight. Obviously, we do this 8 o'clock UK time, talking about the episode that just happened. Once we get around to that, once we've caught up through the backlog, yeah.
Surely.
Obviously, Twitter's, YouTube's, all that drill. If you're watching this, you must have. If you're watching this, you must have watched the the mainstream where I go a bit more in detail. All right.
What are you doing here, mate? Go close.
Yeah. What are you doing, A, watching this, and B, having watched it for 55 minutes and gotten to the end of it? Like,
The only way that happens is if you are in a very weird part of YouTube.
or like, I don't know, maybe you've had like a stroke or something, and your headphones are still on, and you're just lying there unable to do anything.
Okay, you've got to watch time.
Yeah, and I hope you get help very quickly. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for watching.
Have a sponsor to plug.
We're nowhere near big enough for that.
D&D Beyond.
D&D Beyond is D&D. D&D. Yeah. All right.
I am unfortunately no Sam Weagle, so I'll leave you with that.
I'm no Matt Mercer, so if nothing else, I'm nowhere near as glorious a head of hair as he does. But yes. All right. Let's stop rambling. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.
Rambling, that's half the show.
Shut up.
See you guys next time.